Last month I made a devlog getting all of you back up to speed about what I've been up to for my game in the last 6 or so months, and well, for half a year of progress, it wasn't all that exciting in the end, and development has been pretty slow, aside from maybe the things that you've been able to see me doing on live streams. So today, let's do the exact opposite of that. To compensate for having so little progress lately, I'm going to sit down, shut off from the world, and go through 12 hours of working on this game. Realistically, could I just dedicate 30 minutes a day to working on this for the next month or so and compensating that way? Yes, I could. But hey, who needs mental health anyway? Let's destroy myself for your entertainment. Which is a nice segue into today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Nah, just kidding. Could you imagine though? That would be great. I wanted to get started with my level loading system because for the most part I'm happy with how it works. But as I've been building levels, one of the things I plan to do more of today, I've been running into a small issue. My level doors load the new levels based on a name that I provide inside of them. They find the level with that name, load it, get the name of the level that they are currently inside, and unload that. Then when the new level is loaded, it checks the level that you were just in and finds a door that leads to that level through finding the corresponding name. That way, they automatically know which door connects up to what level, and I don't have to start like pairing objects or any kind of stuff like that. It just finds it automatically. That's all good. But when making levels, I have to then type out the name of every level on every door. And even copy and pasting those names is very tedious and troublesome to do. And every slight typo or mess up that I make just makes the whole system not function entirely. So instead I wanted to make it so you pick a level out of a drop-down menu. And that's all there should be to it. Of course, me being the clever guy I am, I made sure to use soft references instead of hard references. Everyone knows that otherwise you run into memory nightmare. Okay, so when you start the game, all the levels are unloaded. As a result, all the soft pointers get wiped. So I literally can't do that. Well, after about 2 hours of messing around, when I'm writing this part of the video, it's not quite fixed yet. I got most of it working, but the issue is now I'm using pointers, and when I unload the level, the pointer becomes null, meaning that I can't reference the level that I was just in before anymore, which also breaks the entire system. This threw me for a bit of a loop, but it's nothing that can't be fixed with moving a little bit of code around, except for when my player dies, you get sent back to the last checkpoint you touched, which is all based on names. That wasn't an issue until now, but this time when you die, the level is well and truly unloaded, making the pointer-based system just straight up not work. So instead, what I do now is I still allow the player to pick and choose from a drop-down list with soft pointers to different level variables, but those pointers don't actually end up doing anything inside of the game. They just populate the name variables that I had to begin with. Meaning I actually kept all of my code from the previously existing system and just slotted in one more function right into the start. Which means that I'm still using the exact same code that I deleted when I started on this. Thank goodness for version control. So yeah, the first 2 hours of my day was spent wasting time on something that ended up being about a 5-minute fix. Great start of my day, don't you think? Let's move on. And I think this is actually a great time to just close Unreal Engine, because frankly I'm a little annoyed. Mostly at myself, but I need to start doing something on the world building. I have a pretty decent map layout already drawn, with most of the locations for the different levels and how they'll connect, and I have some ideas for like the background lore as well. Nothing that will be explicitly told in the game, 90% of the storytelling will be purely environmental, but still. Having a reference point for myself, simply so that I don't forget parts, I need to start writing some kind of lore bible. A place to gather all of my world building and story related stuff. And after something so frustratingly technical, having some more free-form creative task might be a nice thing to do. I don't think I'll bore you with the details of me just like writing a lot. That doesn't seem too interesting. But do let me know if you want me to make a video about the world building and the story elements at some point in the future. For now, all I'll say is I did my writing in Campfire, a great piece of software that is designed for just this kind of thing. It's like writing your own private wiki pages, with locations, characters, story, and so on. If I hadn't already done the sponsorship joke at the beginning of the video, I would do it here as well. But seriously, if anybody at Campfire is watching this, hit me up. I love your software. Anyway, after all that, about an hour and a half or so, yeah, it took a while because I got distracted playing around with Campfire's features, such as making an interactable map and linking articles together and such. It's time to get back into Unreal. Almost. Remember that Fiverr video I did a few months ago? I had 3 models made, 2 props, which I've been using regularly, and a character that's so far just been kinda sitting there. So I think it's time that we rig this guy and get him ready for animation, and maybe take a look at his materials too. Because while the artist copied the original source image that I had very well, it doesn't really end up fitting too well into my game's world. Setting up the armature in Blender was a quick and easy task. A little cleanup on the weight painting was needed, but from start to finish that was nothing more than like 30 minutes of work. At this point, we're getting very close to lunchtime though, so I figured how much trouble can rigging it in Unreal really give me? It'll be quick and easy, and then I can just take a short break and get some food. The Unreal portion of this character took me about an hour because, well, for the life of me, I couldn't get the IK for the legs to behave. To this day, I have no idea what went wrong. The IK for the arms works perfectly fine, so I decided to slap on some parent constraints and controllers for the legs and call it a day, because at this point I've been messing about with this rig for about an hour and I was starving. It also made me think though, do I even really want this character in the game anymore? Initially the idea is that you'd find this robber snooping around random places throughout the entire game as a grave robber, but since the whole idea of graves has now been limited to only this one dungeon that I'm working on right now, and the way I'm writing the background lore, an outsider even being able to come into this place doesn't make a lot of sense. So I have a rig now, but I'm putting this guy on the back burner for a bit. Maybe he's getting entirely scrapped, which is funny because he's based on a beta design for a Spyro anime, so this poor guy is getting scrapped again. The upside, that means that I'm not going to bother programming or texturing him for the time being. So let's take another look at what else we can do. I think just to take my mind off this whole mess, much like before, let's do something totally different and do a block out for some of the levels in the new next dungeon that I'm going to be making. Now, we have to choose, after the purple dungeon themed around the catacombs, what do we do next? Well, I think it makes most sense to work on a dungeon that is right next to it on either side. So either we do the blue dungeon first, or we go ahead and start work on the red dungeon. I like the color red more, so we're gonna do that. But first, a quick 30-minute lunch break, because as I said, I am starving. And while we take that lunch break, let's talk about the sponsor of today's video, NordVPN. NordVPN is a... wait. You've heard all of this before, right? Browse from anywhere in the world, increased privacy or security, streaming services, all that stuff. You've been on YouTube before, you've heard these talking points. It's fine. If you want to get it, link down below in the description. If you don't want to get it, let's move on with the video. I'm not going to waste your time. You know how this deal works, right? Yeah, cool, let's move on. So I spent another 2 or so hours doing some basic blockouts. Nothing major, no art, hardly even any level design, because after the first few levels I figured that I think it's a lot more fun to do that kind of stuff on stream with viewers watching. So I just laid out the general proportions of all the rooms and put in the proper doors to each of them, which made me realize, now that I have my level loading system reworked, all the doors I had already placed down in the game so far have been broken, which also broke my save system for reasons. So that's something to look into later today. Just giving all the doors in the game the proper levels to load pointers should fix that issue right away. It's just, at this point, I got a lot of doors, man. So that might be a nice end of the day kind of task. Something that doesn't require my brain to work all too hard, it just has to be kind of done at some point. Now, a lot of work I still had left today was to do with the character that I decided to scrap. So instead, let's still do some programming, but just something else. My save system. Right now, the game only supports one save file, and for the longest time I figured that would be it. People could live with only having one save file. But then I remembered how pissed off I was with Kingdom Hearts 3 being downgraded from the usual 99 save slots in literally every other Kingdom Hearts game on the PlayStation 2 to only 9 save slots on the PS4, because that makes sense. And then I remembered how annoying it always is in Pokemon when you only have one save file per copy. So yeah, I implemented a save system that would allow you to have more than one save. We could do this two ways. A save system where you just have a number of save slots, something like 9 or 99 or even 999, you get the point. Or we could have a save system that allows the users to make new save files with their own names given in. That way you more or less have an unlimited amount of files. But then I would need to store the names of those files inside of a different save object to load the save games that you can then choose from to load your save data. You got that? No? Okay, let's move on. While it isn't really all that complex, I also don't see much of an upside to doing it that way, so having just a massive list of 99 save files like the old Kingdom Hearts games used to have, which is a lot more simple to make. If I wanted to, I could even regenerate the 99 empty save files, but I don't think I really need to. Either way, I don't think it's really necessary for a person to be able to have more than 100 save files on this game that probably isn't even going to have 100 levels. But hey, if you disagree and think that I should have an infinitely expandable save system, let me know in the comments why I'm an idiot and why a system like that might be better. For now though, I just spend 3 or so hours reworking my save system to save and load specific save files. And making the UI so you can pick your save files, I added in rows with icons that I maybe eventually can use to showcase which weapons have been unlocked on which save file. I don't even have any code in place for that yet, but that certainly was pretty high up on the to-do list after this video is done, because I need to keep track of that anyway for the actual weapon switching system. For now, we'll just add placeholder images. What I can do, however, is add a playtime counter. It's pretty simple. We just simply add an integer value to the game instance, and that increases once a second on a timer. And then we just save and load that value too and display it in any menu. We can calculate the minutes and hours then from that variable. We could store the minutes and hours separately in their own variables to prevent integer overflow issues, but with playtime, if you do the math, a year of non-stop gameplay time would be 31 million seconds. And a regular 32-bit integer can go about up to 2 billion. So I don't really think that we're going to need to worry about anything like that, because this game will likely be at most 10 to 15 hours of playtime in a single file. Now, there is the issue of displaying these times in the loading menu, of course, because we're not going to load every possible save file every time we open that menu. That would be insane. The same for the icons about whether or not weapons are unlocked yet on the save files. And the images of where in the game you last saved any given file. All those need to be loaded in separately from the actual save file, so they need to be stored in some kind of meta save file. So we do need to make a separate save object to hold all this data for these save slots after all, which means that we could have totally done the whole infinite save feature. But you know, I still think 99 save files is plenty, and it's a little bit neater this way, because the player doesn't actively have to make their own save slots. There's just a bunch of them to save their files to. And that's it, we're already 12 hours of development in. We've made actually quite a lot of progress. Some time was wasted on fixing issues that turned out to be pretty easy on a character, which ended up being scrapped anyway. But even so, I think we caught up pretty well to schedule after not working on the game for a while. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you want to see more like this. But before I even entertain the idea of doing anything like this again, I need to go to sleep, man. And a very big thank you to all of my Patreons. You can see them on screen right now. If you want to help out supporting the channel, there's a link down below in the description to the Patreon page. And a special thanks to my Cave Digger tier Patreons, Sir J. Thomas,